Good morning. If you want to see how we restored this little oak kitchen table, stick around because that's what we're going to do today. Welcome to another Memphis Monday 186. Today we're going to be restoring a missing table. So this ought to be interesting. We have the legs. We have 4 legs that are broken. But we have to restore a table we don't even have. So let's knock off the chit chat, get over there and figure out what the issue is. Here are the legs, and you can see like this one here is split, come unglued, and there's chunks of it missing. So then we've got to build a new frame for these legs, and I've never built a table like this before. Let me show you what I'm talking about. The deal is that these legs are angled. I don't remember what that angle is, like 7 degrees or something, but they're splayed out. That means that the frame is going to have to be splayed out too. And then after we fix the legs and we build a new frame, we're going to attach the whole thing to this new tabletop that I've already started building. Okay, I'll assess the damage of these things and I'll get back and tell you what the plan is. These 2 legs need to be glued along their major axis. These 3 legs have to have a chunk of wood missing here at the foot. Here what I'm doing is cleaning the wood up, and see how it's stained up in here. One good thing about this is I can tell that this is oak. The deal on this leg, it's glued pretty solid with that expanding foam glue down at the bottom. So I wasn't able to split it apart without possibly breaking it. Then up here at the top, I put a wedge in there. Okay, we're gonna have to just wing it here. I'm just gonna squirt glue down there and hope it goes down pretty far. And I got a little probe I can stick in here, spread it around. Okay, now I'll stick this missing part on here. I'd like to know what kind of glue they used on this because it must not have been very good. Okay, let's try to clamp it up. On this other leg, I'll do the same thing. I got a wedge in there, and I'll just feed some glue in from the top and try to swish it around with some tools. So now, using this piece of cane, got a pretty even coat of glue all the way down. Well, there's our 2 legs that we had to totally re-glue. Now we can start worrying about replacing those 3 missing nubs. Again, this is the nub, just a reminder. This part right here is missing on 3 of the legs. So we're gonna have to make 3 of those and glue them on here. Well, I got to working on this leg, and the Gorilla Glue they put in there, they just put a dab in it, just a dab right here on the end. it doesn't go all the way through. But now, let me show you why I don't hardly ever use that expanding foam glue. Watch how this, watch how I just scrape this glue right off. See, it's like foam. See? It's not very, you know, maybe I'm not doing it right or something, but what I'm doing is I'm sanding it in the lathe. I can't really center it in the lathe because there's angles on both ends, and the thing has been, you know, cut at an angle. So, but I can put it on there and turn it slow and get down in these cracks and stuff that are hard to get to otherwise. Solved the missing piece dilemma. I glued on a little piece of wood there, and now I'll carve it. And this is the leg we've been sanding on. That's what we want the leg to look like. Now I have the bottom squared off. I got the other one here. I kind of give myself some guidelines. So here's the one we're trying to duplicate. So what I've done here is just made a little mark. So I'll carve away all this up in here to get the basic shape. I got those little nubs roughed out, but I'm still not satisfied. These things get dragged across the floor, and you know, and they get mopped and they get wet and everything else. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to drill a hole right through there and put one of these big dowels in there. I think these oak dowels are going to make this thing, these legs, these feet, like indestructible. So now we have this dowel running right through the middle of the foot, all the way through. I'll sand it all off and finish it, make it look pretty, and it'll almost look like it was planned that way. I got all the legs sanded and tested to make sure they're all good to go. Now it's time to work on the frame. I got the tabletop laying here on the workbench, and I got the prototype frame staged here so we can take a look at it. Here you can see the resultant angle of this leg. It is not plumb or vertical. It is got a slight angle to it. Let's see how that's accomplished. The first thing that is done is this base. You can see there, this base is at an angle. The next thing that is done is all these frame pieces are splayed out, and this corner brace that the leg is attached to also has that funny compound angle. So our first job will be to cut this angle down here on the table saw. Okay, here I'm just fiddling with my saw blade until I match that angle. Now ordinarily on these table frames, this edge right here is a 90-degree angle. But in this case, the angle is 4 degrees. Okay, I've got the legs kind of set up here just to determine the lengths of my table frame pieces. And I think I'm going to go with 44 inches and 23 inches. Okay, I have my blade set at 4 degrees, and I've got my stock pushed up against the fence. Okay, here's the other side. Let's do it, and we'll see if our theory works. Well, this is the reason you dry fit and check stuff. My brain must have been backing up, because you can see that this board has too much of an angle on it. This board should only have a 4-degree angle. It should be the same angle that this thing is splaying outward. Well, I got all the frame rails cut out, roughed out. What I'm working on now are the little corner blocks. First thing I'm doing with each one is cutting a hole, and that hole, of course, has to be exactly in the right place, or it doesn't, the brace won't work. Then, of course, the brace will go right in here. These blocks are held in with pocket screws, and here's our prototype. They're drilled into the side like this. I've already tested my setup. For all my frame pieces, I'm putting pocket holes to attach it to the tabletop, and I'm rounding over this edge right here. Got all the parts processed, but before I do any assembly, I'm going to stain everything. Earlier I said that we were going to go with a darker color. I've decided against that, and I'm going to go with back to the original color. And this is something new we haven't done in a while, and that is I'm using one of these polyurethane stain and polyurethane in one go. And the color is classic oak. I'm going to try to assemble this thing without a table jig, which I usually don't do, but I'm going to give it a try. Well, I got a coat of stain and poly on everything. There are the legs. They came out really good. The dowels we put in there. Here's the frame. Okay, I'm going to let these dry overnight, but you'll be on the time machine and you'll be back in 1 second. Good morning. I'm doing a little assembly. I'm not using a table jig on this particular restoration, but I had made a couple of templates which will square the corners, and then I'll square the whole frame on the tabletop once everything's screwed together. And this template here goes on the northeast corner and the southwest corner. So I have the east end of the frame put together. Let's move the templates down to the west end and assemble the legs down there. Okay, all I do is slide a piece of paper underneath the joint here and align the side part of the frame here right along that line. I don't know if you can see it. Put the leg right directly in the corner, and that's really what makes it square. And then I assemble, put the leg block in right there. Okay, first thing I'm doing is putting on the attachment bolt here, kind of hold this thing in place while I'm trying to screw it. See, everything moved. That's a problem with not having an assembly jig. Table is racked a little bit in the southwest corner. What I'm going to do is attach this frame here on this north side, and then I'll unrack that south side. Well, our frame came out real good. Remember, on this frame, you really need this frame because, you know, the tabletop is only a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood, but this oak frame, 3.5 inches wide, will really strengthen it. And here's another look at our dowels. Those dowels go all the way through, and it's really going to strengthen that foot, because you can see that foot is 3 layers of material and really vulnerable down there on the floor. I'm putting another coat of this polyurethane stain on our piece because this plywood is dark and not as dark as the legs. Maybe this will balance it out a little bit. Well, there's our little table. We started with 4 broken legs. The feet were missing on 3 of the legs. All we had was 4 broken legs, and we turned it into this fairly nice little table. Well, that does it for Memphis Monday 186. Restoring a table we didn't even have. All we had were 4 broken legs. We were going to change the color of it, decided to go back to the original. We made a new top, we made a new frame. We re-glued all the legs, made new feet, and reinforced them with a dowel. Pretty satisfied overall, and I think we had a lot of fun, had a lot of takeaways. Tweet, Facebook, comment, all the things you do on the internet, but most important, make sure you're back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday. Thanks for playing along.